The 2022 NBA Locked On Mock Draft is here. Where did the Pistons end up selecting, and who did I pick? Find out today in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. But let's go ahead and get right into today's episode. So I'm going to be playing for you guys the entirety of the Locked On mock draft in today's episode. Find out where the Pistons selected and who I picked in this mock draft, and right after it's done, I'll come back to you guys and give you guys a little bit more analysis about why I picked who I picked, where, based off where they were, the Pistons ended up selecting at, who was picked ahead of them, etc., etc. We'll talk about that when we come back, but first, you guys got to listen to the entirety of the Locked On mock draft, have some fun, and you guys can also let me know down below what you guys think about the other team's picks. If you feel like some guy was reached on or some guy fell, let me know all about all of that in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. But without further ado, enjoy the 2022 Locked On NBA mock draft. See you guys right after.
Nick Engstead here from the Locked On NBA podcast to bring you our lottery mock draft. I went to Tankathon, did a simulation, and this is how it turned out. We had a little bit of work at the top. The Orlando Magic slide up to the number 1 pick. Oklahoma City slides up 2 spots to get number 2. Houston falls to number 3. Detroit falls to number 4. And then it goes chalk from there with the Pacers, Blazers, Kings, Pelicans, Spurs, Wizards, Knicks, Thunder again, Charlotte Hornets, and then the Cleveland Cavaliers round out the lottery. We are going to go one by one to each of our Locked On hosts to get their pick, who they would pick if their team actually falls in this spot.
With the first pick of the Locked On NBA mock draft, the Orlando Magic select Paolo Banchero. I'm Philip Rosenreich, the host of the Locked On Magic podcast, and the reason the Magic take Paolo Banchero is quite simple. They need a guy who can create his own shot. They need a guy who can be a primary scorer. They've got a lot of great secondary players. They got a lot of really good young talent, but they need a guy that they can truly orbit around. And what we saw during the NCAA tournament, what we saw all year at Duke, was Paolo Banchero is that star kind of player, a guy who can work from the outside and the inside, a guy who has size and defensive potential and capabilities, but really this is about adding his scoring and his scoring ability. This is a guy who's got tremendous footwork and just is a tremendous scorer, and that's just frankly what the Magic need, especially for a team that was one of the worst offensive teams in the league. So the Orlando Magic will take Paolo Banchero with the first pick in the Locked On NBA mock draft.
With the second pick in the 2022 Locked On NBA mock draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Jabari Smith, forward out of Auburn. The Oklahoma City Thunder finally get lottery luck, and they jump up from 4 to 2, and my best player on my big board, Jabari Smith Jr., was available after Paolo Banchero went number 1. This pick was really between him and Chet Holmgren, and maybe Sam Presti would lean towards Chet Holmgren just based on the tantalizing nature of his 7-foot frame with guard-like skills. But Jabari Smith Jr. can fit seamlessly alongside Josh Giddey and SGA with his 3-and-D potential. Richard Stayman at Mavs Draft on Twitter and our Locked On expert has compared him to Klay Thompson. And so whenever you're trying to fit 2 guards together that are ball dominant in SGA and Josh Giddey, you need to find a player who can fit into that equation without mucking it up and adding another ball dominant player, but still having high upside. And that's exactly what Jabari Smith Jr. does. He can play elite defense, he can score very well in the offensive end, and he can allow for SGA to take over in isolation and Josh Giddey to set him up with his elite playmaking. So that's where we're going here on the Locked On mock draft. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.
With the third overall pick in the Locked On NBA mock draft, the Houston Rockets select CHET Holmgren out of Gonzaga. What's up? Jackson Gatlin here from over at Locked On Rockets. And look, the Rockets can't go wrong with any of the top 3 big man prospects in this year's NBA draft. Being third on the board isn't as good as being number 1 on the board, but being able to come away with Chet Holmgren is still a huge get for this Houston Rockets team. He has size, he has shooting, and he's got the potential to be the number one player coming out of this year's draft, a true unicorn in every sense of the word, a guy that you can slot in at the 5 if you're Houston. Maybe you run him at the 4 alongside Alperen Şengün or Christian Wood, depending on what their lineup looks like next season. A lot of flexibility to be had with Chet Holmgren and a very, very bright future when you pair him with Jalen Green.
With the 4th pick in the 2022 Locked On NBA mock draft, the Detroit Pistons select SHAEDON Sharpe, 6'5" guard out of Kentucky. In this lottery mock draft, the Detroit Pistons fell from number 3 to number 4, which isn't that bad, but that takes off BANCHERO, Chet Holmgren, and JABARI Smith. That leaves a bunch of guards and a bunch of wings available at number 4. And I feel like Sharpe is, as of right now, one of the more interesting prospects in the entire draft. Yes, he's technically coming out of Kentucky, but he did not play a single game of college basketball, so you don't really have a ton of tape to really go off. Despite this, the 19-year-old has rose up a bunch of people's draft boards, drawing comparisons to Paul George, Bradley Beal, and Jalen Green. And any type of player like that would fit, I feel like, pretty well next to Cade Cunningham. If the Pistons do miss out on one of the big men, finding Cade Cunningham's long-term backcourt mate, you get a guy like that, I feel like a lot of Pistons fans would be happy. Could have went with Jaden Ivey right here, but I find SHAEDON Sharpe to be a bit more interesting as of right now, so the Detroit Pistons select SHAEDON Sharpe with the number 4 overall pick in this year's Locked On NBA mock draft.
With the 5th pick in the Locked On NBA mock draft, the Indiana Pacers select Jaden Ivey from Purdue. I'm Tony East with the Locked On Pacers podcast. And Ivey's a really good fit for what the Pacers have and need. They basically just need talent at this point after winning just 25 games, having their 3rd worst season in franchise history, but a speedy guard who can dominate the game when Tyrese Halliburton is floating more off the ball or when he's out of the game is a fantastic fit for this Pacers team. And Ivey, somewhat local, going to Purdue, just an hour from Indianapolis, would be an excellent fit for this franchise. His speed, burst, his power, his athleticism just makes him such a dynamic player, and why he's just such a highly regarded prospect. Got up to 17 points per game this season for Purdue. The passing isn't quite all the way there, but definitely showed flashes of playmaking. Shot the ball pretty well to start the season. Looks like he can be a scorer from basically all over the floor and a pretty good creator everywhere. His defense is solid thanks to his athleticism and speed as well. He just seems like an athletic freak who can do a lot with the ball. And that's a good fit for any team, but especially a Pacers team looking to add talent and dynamic play to their franchise. So the Pacers take Ivey at 5, and they're very happy to do it.
With the 6th pick in the Locked On NBA mock draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Keegan Murray. I'm Mike Richmond, host of Locked On Blazers, your pass first point guard. And if the Blazers do remain in 6, they keep those lottery odds right where they are. With the 6 best lottery odds, they end up picking 6 in the draft. Keegan Murray seems like a pretty darn good outcome. One of the most productive players in college basketball last season. Fits a position of need on a team desperate for forwards. Keegan Murray could help right away for the Blazers and has some upside to be part of the future. I think they'd be pretty excited if Keegan Murray's on the board when it comes down to it in June.
This is Matt George, host of the Locked On Kings podcast, and with the 7th pick in this Locked On NBA lottery mock draft, Sacramento Kings take AJ Griffin out of Duke. Now, I'll be honest with you, if I had the ability to trade this draft pick, I absolutely would. Unfortunately, was not able to do so here. But if the Kings do end up at number 7, where they're projected to end up, don't be surprised at all if they heavily shop and ultimately move on from this pick. The Kings are looking for immediate impact players. And while I like the upside of a guy like AJ Griffin, he theoretically fits a need for the Sacramento Kings with their lack of wing depth. I like his potential as a defender, his potential as a shooter, his size, his athleticism. Love all those things. But can you expect AJ Griffin or too many rookies from this draft class, period, to be immediate impact type players that are going to get the Kings from the cellar in the West to in the playoffs? That's the expectation for this team as early as next year. They're going to need a big turnaround. That means big impact from starter and rotation players. AJ Griffin would not be a bad player to have on this Kings squad. Don't know if he does enough, but that's who I'll end up taking, and I'll take him with comfort and happiness here on the mock draft.
All right, sorry guys, we got to take a little break here. I got to tell you guys about some of our sponsors. First up, let me tell you a little bit about PrizePicks. All right, NBA fans, are you looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA? Then you need to try their award-winning app, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this, and we know that you will too. You just pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's really just that easy. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Make sure you use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from points scored to rebounds and even steals. PrizePicks allows mixed sports entries as well. So like during the football season, I'd always take the under on Jared Goff's passing yards, but would always take the over on Cade Cunningham's points. So you can do NBA and NFL, but you can also do college football and college basketball, MLB, soccer, MMA, and more. And for a limited time, PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Users get $50 for free, and if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a singular point, but you must use code NBA. That's right, this is an exclusive offer made for Locked On fans. Sign up today and use code NBA, $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a singular point. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Then let me tell you about another one of our sponsors, your guys' favorite sponsor, Built Bar. Imagine dipping your finger into that plastic tub of birthday cake frosting, and then opening your eyes and realizing that it was only 150 calories and 16 grams of protein. That is what it's like to eat the birthday cake puff from Built Bar. I just received my birthday cake puff bars about last week or so, and I have never had anything like this before. I still really like the peanut butter flavor, but this one's coming in a close second. I can't tell you guys how amazing these are. I really enjoy them. You guys can check them out and get them over at Built.com. If you haven't tried any of the Puffs bars, I'll let you in on a little secret, because that's what friends do. A chocolate-covered marshmallow protein bar, delicious flavored marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. Make every day your birthday with Built's birthday cake puff bar. Built has taken the delicious experience of biting into a fresh slice of birthday cake and robed it in 100% white chocolate and added sprinkles. With 150 calories, 16 grams of protein, and only 9 grams of sugar, this limited time flavor is an amazing option if you are looking for a healthy way to get flavor and variety in your day. All Built Puff bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means with Built, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy eating it. And they are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Go to Built.com to get birthday cake puffs now. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 50% off your order. Again, let's use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar ever.
With the 8th pick in the Locked On NBA mock draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select BENNEDICT Mathurin, wing from Arizona. I'm Jake Madison with the Locked On Pelicans podcast and Locked On NBA. With Zion Williamson healthy next season, the starting lineup and first guys off the bench are set for the Pels, which means they can go in any direction with the 8th pick. And at this spot in the draft, Mathurin is the right mix of best player available with high upside. As a sophomore at Arizona, he showed off a multi-dimensional offensive game that is tailor-made for the NBA. He's comfortable inside the arc, but more importantly for this Pelicans team that was one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league, he's a guy that excels at both pull-up and catch-and-shoot threes. Defensively, he has moments of lockdown defense, showing what he can do at the NBA level and has the tools to guard multiple positions, but he's definitely over-aggressive at times, and he relies a little bit too much on his long mid-range game when he gets himself into trouble, so there's room for development. With CJ McCollum getting older, and this Pelicans team going to be very expensive soon, getting a guy that can be a lead scoring option after a couple of years development at 8 on a cheap rookie deal, that's exactly the type of long-term thinking the New Orleans Pelicans need to continue building the sustainable success that they are hoping for. So for more on Zion Williamson and the rest of this Pelicans team, that Jose Alvarado there right behind you, be sure to check out the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
With the number 9 pick in the Locked On NBA 2022 mock draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Jalen Duren out of Memphis. I am Jeff Garcia with Locked On Spurs, and here's why the Spurs, or at least in this case, Locked On Spurs, decided to go with the big man, Jalen Duren. He's exactly what the Spurs need to address their biggest need in the offseason, and that is size. After Jakob Poeltl, the depth chart for the Spurs is relatively weak. You have Zach Collins, who is coming off an injury that set him away from the NBA for over a year and a half. Still needs time to get back to form. And, of course, there's still unproven rookie Jock Landale. 6'11", 250 pounds, He's exactly what the Spurs need. Averaged 12 points per game last season with Memphis. Shot 60% from the field in 25 minutes. He's physically gifted, good leaping ability, mobile. He is exactly what the Spurs need to counter the modern centers in today's NBA. A 7'5" wingspan can cover a lot of ground on both ends of the court. Agile, lateral quickness. He's exactly what the Spurs team needs. This is Jeff Garcia with Locked On Spurs. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast.
What's going on? My name is Ed Oliver from the Locked On Wizards podcast. And with the 10th pick of the Locked On NBA mock draft, the Washington Wizards select Malaki Branham out of Ohio State. Great player, 6'5", 180 pounds. Freshman, was Big Ten Rookie of the Year, 2022 All Big Ten, and made the Big Ten All Freshman team. Went to St. Vincent St. Mary High School. Is from Columbus, Ohio. We all know who else went to that high school too, so maybe there's some pedigree there too. But the Wizards need talent. This guy averaged 13 points a game, 49% from the field, 41% from the three-point line, and 83% from the free throw line. Was almost a 50-40-90 guy. We could use some talent. He's athletic. He can get to the rim. He's a slasher, great finisher around the rim, can finish above the rim and can create a shot for himself. The Wizards need talent, especially at the guard position. So Malaki Branham is a combo guard that can come in and immediately help the Washington Wizards. Thank you for listening. Peace.
With the 11th pick of the Locked On NBA mock draft, the New York Knicks select Dyson Daniels, guard out of the G League Ignite. I am Alex Wolf. I'm one of the hosts of Locked On Knicks, and we were ecstatic to get this pick and be able to take Dyson Daniels here. The Knicks really just kind of need a player like Daniels. You know, we think that he'll fit in great in between Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. He's long. He plays great defense. He can, attack the basket some. The shot is a little bit of a work in progress, but he has ideal NBA size at 6'8" and 6'11" wingspan with very legit guard skills. So we're super happy to get him here. We think he's going to fit in great with the sort of point guard by committee that the Knicks will hopefully run with him, Quickley, and RJ Barrett as far as initiating the offense next year, maybe even Julius Randle if he's still around. So really ecstatic to have him. Almost took Johnny Davis, but Dyson Daniels is our guy. And we've been talking about him a lot on Locked On Knicks, so definitely be sure to check us out there. Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast.
With the 12th pick in the 2022 Locked On NBA mock draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Jeremy Sohan, forward out of Baylor University. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of the Locked On Thunder podcast, and Jeremy Sohan is likely the best defender in this NBA draft class. Now, at this pick, the Thunder would have liked to have Jalen Duren fall down to them, and maybe they would even trade up to get Jalen Duren. But given the circumstances, as Dyson Daniel goes off the board one pick before the Thunder, Jeremy Sohan is a really nice option to create roster versatility for the Thunder, who need to improve defensively and need to improve on the three-point line, which their number 2 overall pick, Jabari Smith Jr., helps with the number 2, helps with the three-point line and defense. Jeremy Sohan could be the best defender in this class, and you're putting together a team at that point that's very young, very versatile, and can complement SGA and Josh Giddey in the team's quest to get out of this rebuilding phase and back into title contention. While it will take some time, it could happen with Jeremy Sohan at the helm with Jabari Smith Jr. complementing your 2 stars.
With the 13th pick in the Locked On NBA mock draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin. I'm Walker Mail from the Locked On Hornets podcast alongside Doug Branson. And we had an interesting decision to make with the Hornets having the 13th pick and the 15th pick. I wanted to go with the best center. It's well documented that is a huge need for the Charlotte Hornets, but Doug texted me with an interesting scenario once the 13th pick was on the board.
Well, I saw Johnny Davis sitting there available because a few teams above us may have reached a little bit. I'm not judging, but they got the player they wanted, but they may have reached. And Johnny Davis, a player that I think really would complement in the long term, complement LaMelo Ball well because he can defend. He's long, he's athletic, and I think Johnny Davis would be a perfect 2 guard next to LaMelo Ball long term. Because here's the thing: the Hornets, yes, they needed center, they need interior defense, but they need defense everywhere. They need perimeter defense too, Walker.
Yeah, Johnny Davis averaged 19.7 points per game, had an excellent year in the Big Ten this past season, a 2-year player with the Badgers. I think the shooting can improve. Even if the three-point shooting wasn't great, his free throw shooting was sitting at about 80%. I don't think he's going to fail in the NBA. I think he's a guy that can help out in a bunch of different areas. And with that 15th overall selection, I think the Charlotte Hornets can select that center that they desperately need, along with maybe picking one up in free agency. If you want to hear more about the Charlotte Hornets leading up to the NBA draft, you can check out Locked On Hornets wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Twitter at Walker Mail, Doug on Twitter at Doug Branson LOH, and the show handle on Twitter at Locked On Hornets.
With the 14th pick in this mock draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select OCHAI AGBAJI, the wing from Kansas. I'm Chris Manning, one of the hosts of the Locked On Cavs podcast. And AGBAJI, this past year's Final Four most outstanding player, fits a real need for the Cleveland Cavaliers. This team needs wings, and they particularly need wings who can shoot. They need wings who can provide support for Darius Garland, for Evan Mobley, for Jared Allen. There's perhaps no player who fits that 3-and-D mold more in this range of the draft than AGBAJI. Yes, he's a little bit older. Yes, maybe there's some upside concerns, but for a Cavs team that has its high-end talent, or at least the players I think they believe are their high-end talent, they have a need for a guy like this to maybe cover for some of Isaac Okoro's deficiencies, for Lamar Stevens' deficiencies, and he just fills a need on this roster. You don't always maybe want to draft for need. There are other guys in this class I think they could strongly look at and could fill other needs this team has. But at 14, AGBAJI feels like a guy that could come in and play and fills a real need. It's hard to not like this pick for the Cavs if it ends up falling this way.
All right, guys, got to take another break real quick, and we'll finish it up. I got to tell you guys about one more of our sponsors. This one is BetOnline.net. Our partners at BetOnline.net continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, or even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is a continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action today. And if you head over to the BetOnline.net site, you'll see that it's more than just baseball and basketball or football. You got boxing, you got golf, hockey, horse racing, martial arts, soccer, tennis, and many, many more. And if you go over to the NBA series, we're in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. My 2 picks from last series did not make it. I was wrong. But if you're looking at these 2 series, I'm going to go ahead and take, before the series starts, I'm going to take the -165 money line for the Boston Celtics to win that series against the Heat. I'm going to take the -210 money line for the Warriors to defeat the Mavericks. Don't hold me to it. I haven't been great with these, but that's where I'm going with. But those are the kind of things you can do over at betonline.net. So again, head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends and action today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, guys. So if you guys made it this far, you guys obviously have been able to listen to the entirety of the Locked On 2022 mock draft, and you will see that the Detroit Pistons fell to number 4 in this mock draft, which means the top 3 guys that I've been saying that I really like the Pistons to get, hopefully they remain in the top 3, and the results of the draft lottery tonight, I'm shaking. But you guys will know that those top 3 guys, CHET, PAOLO, and JABARI Smith, were all gone. So that left the Pistons, I feel like, left me with the decision between a bunch of guards. And we've talked about this on the podcast before, that I feel like falling out of the top 3 would just be terrible. I would be so sick. My stomach would hurt. I'd just be extremely and utterly disappointed if the Pistons did indeed fall out of the top 3. In this mock draft, they did. So I went with SHAEDON Sharpe. And I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. I don't know an absolute ton about SHAEDON Sharpe. I've only done a deep dive on 2 guys. I'm currently in a deep dive on a 3rd guy. And we are going to have someone on the podcast this week to talk about SHAEDON Sharpe. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that episode coming this week. But the reason why I picked Sharpe is really, I wanted to be a little interesting. I'm going to keep it a buck. I know he's the guy, didn't play much or didn't play at all in college, and all people really have is a bunch of high school tape and a bunch of highlights. And it's hard to scout a prospect off of those kind of things and really get an accurate idea or feel real confident, I feel like, in what you believe he could be at the next level. However, he is an insanely interesting prospect that a lot of people are very high on. And the reason why I went with him over IVEY is, like I said, I wanted to see what you guys thought about it. Because I thought IVEY is obviously, I feel like, the more popular pick at number 4, probably. IVEY obviously went to college. He has more to scout off of. And I see that a lot of people in the Pistons community really like Jaden IVEY. But I wanted to go with Sharpe because I know that would be more of an interesting pick at where it was at number 4. He is a very interesting talent. I really wanted to just hear from where you guys felt if the Pistons were to pick Sharpe over IVEY. I wanted to hear what your guys' thoughts are on Sharpe as a prospect. Would you guys be mad if they did indeed pick Sharpe over IVEY, if they were to fall to 4 or something, maybe even 5, however it went? Would you guys be mad if they went with Sharpe over IVEY? And then, tell me your thoughts about IVEY as a player and Sharpe as a player. But, I went with Sharpe simply because, like I said, I had to pick between a bunch of guards. My top 3 guys were gone. It was a very depressing moment when I saw the results of the Tankathon. I honestly feel like they rolled it a couple times to screw the Pistons over, but it is what it is. And I went with Sharpe. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at KookaHill. Would you guys have taken Ivy or would you have taken Sharpe? Again, let me know all of that. Just to give you guys a little bit of a preview on what to come to the podcast in the future. Here's a mosquito or something, a fruit fly flying around my face, and it's really getting on my nerves. I think that's the second straight day that's happened. Either way, coming up on the podcast, we got some news concerning a potential free agent in this offseason that could be more available than I previously thought. We're going to be talking a lot about that guy and whether the Pistons should or shouldn't go after him for the next week or so on the podcast. It's going to be talked about a lot because I have a lot of feelings I have about this certain player. I'll go ahead and spoil who it is. It's DeAndre Ayton. I have a lot to say after seeing that he may be or may be more available than I originally thought. And I'm going to bring some guys on the podcast to talk about this with me because I feel very strongly about the position I'm going to take on him. So that's going to be coming later in the week on the podcast and for the next week or so. When you guys listen to this, obviously it'll be draft lottery day. And right after the lottery, well, actually during the lottery, we're going to have a Locked On show just like last year when you guys saw my big reaction to the Pistons winning number 1. We're doing it again this year. Locked On's having a big show. They're having all the lottery hosts on the show. Just like last year, it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys tune into that. But right after that, and right after the lottery results are revealed, I will be going live on the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons to just react with you guys, talk with you guys. Not a full-on show, not with a lot of breaks, ad breaks, and all these kind of things. Just going live on YouTube at Locked On Pistons, and we'll talk about the reaction and the results of the lottery, how we're feeling, who do we think the Pistons could possibly have at that point, how do we think it's going to end up shaking out with the draft, all those kind of things. Again, we'll be going live and talking with all you guys about that. It should be a lot of fun. I hope to see a lot of you guys over there again at the Locked On Pistons YouTube channel right after the lottery's results come in, which I believe should be around, I'll take a guess and say that'll probably be around 8:30-ish, 8:35-ish, when it'll probably be going live on Eastern time. Like I believe the lottery results, if the Pistons hopefully get a top 3 pick, you won't really know that until 8:30, I think is how it goes. But yeah, again, after the lottery, make sure you guys, if you guys don't have anything else to do, you guys wanted to talk about it and wanted to hear how people think about it, head over to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, tune into the live stream. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for that. Outside of that, man, I ain't got much else for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the Locked On mock draft. It was a lot of fun. Again, I'm not happy about where the Pistons ended up selecting, but it still was a lot of fun. I always enjoy hopping on some things with the rest of the Locked On network when we all get together and do something. I feel like it's always a fun product and always a lot of fun to do. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, let me know who you guys would have taken at number 4. If there's some other teams that you feel like reached on a prospect or maybe a prospect that slipped too far, let me know on your thoughts on the entirety of the Locked On mock draft again in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at KookaHill. Stay tuned for the rest of the week on the podcast. It's going to be a real interesting week on the podcast and real interesting offseason, really, because I think I'm going to start ruffling some feathers with my opinions on DeAndre Ayton in this free agency class, and definitely with my opinions on the draft, depending on where the Pistons end up. But wishing a ton of good luck for the Pistons. We got Rip Hamilton representing the Pistons at the lottery. Make sure we're all putting on our Rip Hamilton jerseys and putting on a mask for the entirety of the day. Putting so much luck on the Pistons. Please, 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 you have to stay at least top 3. Please, at least top 3. Hopefully we have the same type of luck as last year and I can have just as much fun on the lottery show like I did last year. It's going to be, oh God, dude, I can't. I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous for it. If I'm nervous for it, I know you guys are really nervous for it. So, but I'll see you guys in the next podcast, man. Hopefully I'm coming to you guys with some excitement, man. Hopefully we're all happy and we're celebrating something. Hopefully that's what's happening. We're not, shedding tears or anything. That would be really tough. But we were spoiled a little bit last year with K. Actually, no, screw that. That's not an excuse. We need it again. We need number 1 again. We'll take it twice in a row. But yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. All of you guys watching on YouTube, do not make fun of my haircut, man. I chopped like 4 inches off the top of my head. I'm so sick. Just looking at myself right now makes me sick. But anyways, thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. Make sure you are making Locked On NBA your second listen of every single day. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts taking you deep inside the playoffs with inside analysis affecting all 30 teams. Have fun with the lottery tonight. Hopefully we're all smiling afterwards. We'll find out our reactions and our feelings about it either on the live reaction show on the YouTube channel, Locked On Pistons, right after the lottery. Or if you guys are not able to capture that, obviously, we're going to have a show for you guys on Wednesday. So until then, I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Pistons #1 pick, please. I'll see you guys later.